Have you ever wondered why disciplined infantry in the Middle Ages could stop an avalanche of heavy cavalry? The answer lies not in the personal strength of each warrior, but in geometry and coordination. Today, we will examine the three best medieval infantry formations that changed the face of war. First on our list is the legendary formation, the shield wall. It is one of the oldest and most effective tactics widely used across Europe. The basic principle is extremely simple. Warriors stand in several ranks, pressed tightly against one another. The shields of the first row overlap, creating a nearly impenetrable barrier. The second and third ranks support the frontline fighters, preventing the formation from breaking under pressure. The main advantage of the shield wall is its phenomenal resilience to frontal attacks. Even heavy cavalry rarely dared to attack such a monolith head-on, fearing they would get bogged down and lose their horses. Behind the shields, warriors could effectively strike with spears or axes while remaining relatively safe. However, there was another side to this tactic: extreme sluggishness. The shield wall was difficult to maneuver to repel flank attacks. Furthermore, the dense formation was an ideal target for archers if the infantry lacked large shields. A classic example of its use is the Battle of Hastings in 1066. There, the Anglo-Saxons held off the Norman onslaught for hours until their formation was broken by the enemy's feigned retreat. In second place is the Schiltron, often called the hedgehog of the Scottish Highlanders. While the shield wall was good for frontal combat, the Schiltron was the answer to threats from all sides. Essentially, it is a circular or square-like formation of infantry armed with long spears. This tactic was first mass-employed during the struggle for Scottish independence. Warriors positioned their spears at an angle, bracing the butt ends against the ground for support. This created a forest of points directed outward from the circle. The Schiltron was ideal against knightly cavalry, as horses' self-preservation instinct triggered before the obstacle. Even if the enemy surrounded the unit, the infantry could maintain a circular defense for a very long time. This formation required iron discipline. A single cowardly soldier could create a breach for a breakthrough. Schiltrons proved their effectiveness at the Battle of Bannockburn, where the Scots dealt a crushing defeat to the English. The main problem with the Schiltron was its total static nature and helplessness against missile fire. At the Battle of Falkirk, English longbows shattered the stationary Scottish circles. Nonetheless, for infantry lacking cavalry support, it was the only chance for survival.
At the top of our ranking is the pike square, or the famous Swiss battalia. This formation became the evolutionary peak of medieval infantry tactics in the 14th through 15th centuries. Unlike previous options, the battalia was not just a defensive tool, but a powerful offensive one. A deep formation of hundreds or even thousands of men, armed with 5-meter pikes. The first ranks held their pikes horizontally, while subsequent rows held them at an angle, creating a protective canopy over the unit. The Swiss perfected marching in this formation, moving with terrifying speed. When such a mass of steel crashed into enemy ranks, it was impossible to stop. The battalia swept away everything in its path, literally grinding both infantry and cavalry. The flanks and rear of the formation were protected by warriors with halberds and two-handed swords. This formation ended the dominance of knights on the battlefield. It was because of these squares that Swiss mercenaries were considered the best soldiers in Europe for centuries. However, the complexity of managing such a massive body of people was colossal. The slightest unevenness in terrain could tear the formation, making it vulnerable, which makes this tactic very similar to the phalanx. Later, with the development of artillery, dense squares began to suffer heavy losses from cannonballs. But within the context of the classic Middle Ages, the battalia remained the undisputed leader.